Okay, just a cheap brush, some hot soapy water, washing off the oils and some of the surface rust. I've already done the No.7 plane. And basically, it's to allow the vinegar to not have to eat through sawdust and years of grime, given most of these are 100 years old plus. So they're not, some of them not exactly the cleanest. And obviously soapy water, then rinse. Then they're going to go into the vinegar to soak for several hours. Careful you don't cut yourself on the blade. And then after the vinegar, probably a hot soapy rinse followed by a hot rinse, and that will stop the vinegar from eating through any more of the metal. At that point though, with the rust gone, there's still, well, it's most likely you'll just keep rusting again. So a lot of people have suggested from some videos I've seen on YouTube on restoring these planes or just removing rust from metal in general, that use the oven on low heat and bake them dry to get rid of all of the moisture. So I will do that at the end of the process before I put them back together. All right, so I'll keep on to this. Obviously fast forward some of this video. You don't want to watch me spend half an hour washing a bunch of planes. Okay, and that is the water. So a lot of dirt and grime did come off the planes. And there's an example of how quickly the surface rust can start forming. So this plane's been sitting there for 15-20 minutes. Not dry, just air drying. So this rust will come right off. That's another reason to dry them out in the oven. Get rid of all the moisture and then oil the planes. Okay, so a gallon of vinegar, the block plane, my ratcheting wrench, draw knife, and my No.4 Stanley plane soaking. Probably leave it at least 12 hours. We'll check it tomorrow morning, so overnight, and we'll see how it's going. I also realized I don't have a bucket big enough to hold my No.7 plane, so I'll see if I can come up with a solution to that. I may wrap it in a salt and vinegar paste and wrap it with Glad wrap or plastic wrap and remove the rust that way. So some of the tools look like there's a lot of action going on and some significantly less. So for instance, I think this brace bit will be staying in the vinegar for a bit longer. It's been just over 12 hours, whereas some of these other ones with lots of action will come out and get scrubbed down first. First piece, and as we can see, it's a little bit reddish there. The vinegar and salt were definitely eating away there. I'm going to give this a wipe and see what it looks like. A bit hard to see, but definitely has removed some rust. More rust could be removed, and that's just from wiping. So I'm going to hit this with some of these parts with the brass wire wheel to get rid of the rest of the rust. Then they'll be soaked in a baking soda solution to neutralize the vinegar, and then baked in the oven to get rid of it. Okay, so a significant amount of grime and rust was removed, but as you see, things rust up fairly quickly, so you need to get on with them. Now, I'm going to take a wire brush to most of these to get rid of the remainder of the surface rust. And then, as I said, neutralize the acid and bake them dry. Okay, I just wanted to show the No.4 plane. I've done a tiny bit of wire brushing. This one has most of its japanning removed. As you can see, there's some japanning there with the block enamel. So take a look at what it looks like now, and we'll spend a few minutes with just a brass brush on an electric drill and show you how. Okay, so here's the difference. As I said before, you could see most of the japanning was gone anyway on this baling number 4. I believe this is definitely a pre-World War II, and as I noticed cleaning it up, it's been stamped with a serial number 457. So I suppose that could make it more valuable, but for me that's doesn't really matter. Anyway, lots of dust, so face mask, eye shield. This is about as good as it's gonna get. So it's going to go to be neutralized and then baked to get rid of the moisture. So as you can see, this chip breaker, half polished or half ground with a wire brush versus a top, significant difference in rust and a bit of pitting. So this is probably the worst of all the parts I've done so far. And so after just a couple of minutes of grinding, it looks more like that. So that's much better. Okay, so after being neutralized, I put them in the oven. The oven's set at 100 Celsius. Probably could set it a bit lower since water boils at 100. Just want to give it a chance. I guess really I'll reset it to 80. The fan heat is on, and I'll let these sit for a couple hours and completely dry. Okay, so the bench is a big mess, but here are the handles for the 3 main planes. The number 7, the scrub plane, and then the number 4 plane. So basically I just hit them with some 220 sandpaper to knock down some of the grit, added a bit of orange oil, and then some wax polish. I managed to get the compass plane apart. There's a scrub plane, part of the compass plane, and the compass plane body. So they have a coating. They've been taped off, so you'll see where the bare metal still is once the tape comes off. And all the parts mostly rust-free, so ready for a bit of polishing and then some sharpening, and we'll set up these planes. And finally, here is the draw knife, the top of the brace and the wooden handle. So they've been soaked, washed in orange oil and soaked in boiled linseed oil, or had boiled linseed oil wiped on them several times and then polished with the same paste wax.